So thanks to all of you that joined us tonight for the ABLE call. Vicki is an expert at ABLE accounts, and she is a trooper. So you're going to learn a lot from her. Following this, we'll send this out to everybody that registered. So the PowerPoint, and then we'll also send the recording out to in the event that you want to listen to it again, and then have the materials along with it. So Vicki has been a staff member at Family Voices of North Dakota for many, many years, and we are so glad that we have her with us. She's an expert on many things, so we're really proud of her. So anyway, without further ado, Vicki, I'm going to let you take it away. I'm going to go on mute, and I'll probably stop my video, but I'll be listening in and letting people in as they join. So take it away, Vic.
Can you allow me to share my screen? You're on mute. Can you share it? Not yet.
Did it make you a co-host?
Yeah. Now I got it.
Okay.
Perfect.
Yep.
All right. Okay. So, and yes, my name is Vicki Peterson, and I have worked for Family Voices for a long time. So, but I don't think I'm an expert in a lot of areas, but I surely like to help families. So, we'll get started tonight, but just a quick thing about myself. So I live in Bismarck, North Dakota, and I have a 19-year-old son with autism, intellectual disabilities, and chronic health conditions. So that's what got me started with Family Voices. So tonight we're going to talk about 529 ABLE accounts and the makeup of them and the opportunities that you would have for them for family members or yourself or people that you know. So just to get started, if you guys have questions, you can put them in the chat, or you can just unmute and ask as well. So we're going to start off with what is the ABLE Act, and that is the Achieving a Better Life Experience, which is ABLE Act. And why was it created? It was created to ease the financial burden for individuals with disabilities. So at a federal level, this was a bipartisan legislative passage, which was really great because we don't hear about those very often. But for persons with disabilities, this created a tax-free account. So if you ever heard of college save accounts, they're in the same category as that, as a 529 account. So the earnings on an ABLE account would not be taxed, and the account funds would generally not be considered for government programs such as SSI. And when I didn't put in here, but that includes SSDI programs as well, Medicaid and other federal means tested benefits. So federal legislation was passed on this, and so it was up to the states to adopt the act. And so in North Dakota, that was adopted on April 1st in 2015 during that legislative session. It was House Bill 1373, which gave the Bank of North Dakota the ability, excuse me, an opportunity to implement ABLE programs and to issue its rules. North Dakota at that time just chose to offer resources to help those wishing to open ABLE accounts. So in the state of North Dakota, you can have an ABLE account. The account just will not be held in North Dakota. There are other states where you could open an ABLE account. And so a session after that, we tried to go back in and see if the Bank of North Dakota would change their mind and do ABLE accounts. And they did not. And just recently, excuse me, it's so dry. Just recently, we had some meetings with the Bank of North Dakota, and they're still pretty firm in their position of just doing resources. So on the Bank of North Dakota website, which I have listed here, there are some resources, and James Barnhart is the administrator for that College Save program. So he is also the one that has the resources. Okay, so let's get into what a 529 ABLE account is. So ABLE accounts were established under the new Section 529A. The A just stands for ABLE. These are qualified accounts that receive the preferred federal tax treatment. Okay, so no taxes paid on these. It enables eligible individuals to save for disability-related expenses, and we will go further into the PowerPoint. We'll describe these to you as well. The assets in and distributions for qualified disability expenses are disregarded for special treatment in most federal means tested benefits, Medicaid, SSI, SSDI. Total annual contributions currently cannot be over $15,000 per year, okay? The disregards, like I said, included the Medicaid for Social Security payments, or the supplemental income and the SSDI. You can have up to $100,000 in your ABLE account, and it will only be suspended. So you're still eligible. You'll just have to spend down below the $100,000, okay? You have to be disabled before the age of 26. The disability has to be defined by the Social Security Administration, or you must have a disability certificate, which we'll also talk about. The designated beneficiary is the account holder. Okay, so this is actually something for the person with a disability who is eligible for ABLE accounts is also the account holder. And any left assets of the account left at death is subject to a Medicaid payback or clawback, whichever term you use. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as well. Okay, so let's delve into those eligibility requirements. Okay, so you must be disabled before the age of 26. Currently, there has been legislation to move that age from 26 to age 46. It's called the ABLE Age Adjustment Act. So far, it's just kind of sitting at the federal level right now, but just to let you know that that is being worked upon. Again, you must be determined disabled by Social Security, so for either SSI income or SSDI income. And you do not have to be a recipient of SSI or SSDI to open an ABLE account. If you do not receive either one of those benefits, you can get a disability certificate, which will come up in the training, which, well, we can talk about it now since I've kind of mentioned it a couple of times. But a disability certificate is just something from either the person who with the disability listing their disability on a letterhead from either their primary care or their specialist physician, the date of when they were diagnosed, and the disability name, okay, or the category of the disability. Prefer to get that from a primary care physician, but it can be from other physicians as well. You should be holding on to this disability certificate. It is not something you have to send in, but you want to make sure that you hold on to it so that you can prove you were disabled before the age of 26. So here's where we're talking about it. Just to include that individual's diagnosis is pretty important, and the date, because those are the two eligibility requirements for ABLE accounts. So for my son, we opened up an ABLE account before he was able to receive SSI for being disabled. And so I have a disability certificate. It's just a letter from his primary care states when he was diagnosed on there, what his disability is, her name signed at the bottom, and I just keep it in a safe place so that if we ever get audited or somebody ever questions when he became disabled, it is currently there to prove. So why do we think ABLE accounts were created, or why do we need them? So, you know, many individuals with disabilities, we all rely on public benefits such as Medicaid or Medicare, healthcare, food, housing assistance, SSI, Social Security type money for us to have a somewhat incredible life. We end up being on all these public benefits. And so this was created so that persons with disabilities could save money just like anyone else could save money. My son who does not have a disability could save money to buy up things that he wanted to buy that were special to him. But this allows my other son, Aaron, with autism to also save up money to buy things that are important for him. And so he's still able to access federally means tested programs as well. So that is really why they were created. And ABLE accounts were designed to supplement, not supplant benefits. So they were there to add to the benefits. So the impacts, once you open an ABLE account, what are the impacts on those federal benefits? So as we discussed, for SSI or SSDI, it's included in both. A person who is the owner, the account owner of the ABLE account, can have up to $100,000 in an ABLE account, and it will be disregarded for SSI. Okay. But there's one thing you have to be clear on here. You must be determined eligible for SSI based on their eligibility. So their eligibility is still for a single person, $2,000 worth of income and assets. If you're married, it's $3,000. You still must meet those requirements for, before you open an ABLE account. You can't hide money in an ABLE account and then try to collect on SSI, okay? Does anybody have questions on that? Knowing that you have to qualify for SSI on their eligibility. Okay, including the same for SSDI. For Medicaid, all assets and income that are in the ABLE account are disregarded in determining Medicaid eligibility. Okay, so if you have over the $3,000 limit under Medicaid, but though those dollars are held in an ABLE account, it will not count against you for Medicaid. So as we said, there is a Medicaid payback or a clawback, which means that at a time of death of the account holder of the ABLE account, it is subject to a Medicaid clawback to reimburse the Medicaid system for those payments. There is a caveat with this. If you can transfer an ABLE account to another family member who also may be eligible for an ABLE account, in other words, they met the eligibility of diagnosis and the time, the date of a disability and before the age of 26, you can roll over that ABLE account to that person. Or if they didn't have an ABLE account, that person could open an ABLE account and you could deposit or roll over into a brand new ABLE account. Another thing that we'll discuss towards the end is monies that are in an ABLE account can be used for death expenses for funeral and burial costs. So that is another option before the Medicaid clawback. There's a couple of states that have passed legislation to remove that Medicaid clawback. states that have ABLE accounts, but since North Dakota doesn't have their own ABLE accounts, you know, we're always subject to that. So maybe some legislation will come up in the next session where we try to remove that. So many people with disabilities also receive state benefits in North Dakota. So Senate Bill 2124 was passed unless I haven't changed that, but it was a different legislation, not this very past one. But under the Department of Human Services, it's policy number 5310 if you need to use for reference. But those are service payments to elderly or our SPED program, aid to the blind and remedial care, the autism voucher, the substance use disorder voucher, special healthcare services. There's now not children's special healthcare service, just special healthcare services. So these programs also are disregarded when determining eligibility.
Vicki, there's a question in the chat that says, can you roll over the balance to a friend or just a relative?
It has to be a relative of the account holder. Okay, and it can't be, it has to be what they call, the IRS calls it first clause relative. So it can be a sibling. It could actually, you know, be a step sibling. It could be, you know, just perhaps it could be a mother or father. You never know, it could be in there. But you can't like say, oh, my second cousin on my mother's side of this, we can roll it over into there. So if that helps, it cannot be to a friend.
And how far in advance do they need to set up, does your relative need to set up their ABLE account in order for them to transfer funds from one ABLE account to another?
So if upon death, a relative is there, I'll do the example of, let's say it's a brother, but a brother did not have an existing ABLE account. If he opens an ABLE account, okay, when they know that there's money left over in this, so you have to prove a death certificate that would have to be sent to the financial institution of what state is holding that ABLE account. If you know that like a brother is going to open an account, they will allow him to open that account, get it set up, and then they will roll it over, okay? So money's in an ABLE account. To use those dollars, you need to present a death certificate to the financial institution of whichever state. So let's say you're in Nebraska. You present it to the financial institution that's holding your ABLE account, okay? And that also allows you to use some of those dollars in there for burial services. So you don't have to designate, you know, I mean, the IRS has always told us on different webinars that you should kind of write something down, but those dollars can be used by a family member who has authority and present a death certificate can use for burial. And so let's say some of those are left over and you want to roll them into a brother's ABLE account. If he doesn't have one, you can open up one for him. And I believe you have 90 days to do that in most states. So that would be a judgment that is set upon by which state you open your ABLE account in. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. So I have a lot of people call me and ask me, well, you know, should I have an ABLE account or do I need a special needs trust or do I do both? You know, that's going to depend on your personal situation. You know, for my son, we have both because he could inherit land and mineral rights. Those cannot go into an ABLE account. Those cannot roll over. Those type of assets cannot roll into an ABLE account. So we have a special needs trust as well. but definitely with the ABLE account, you have a lot more choices, you have more control, and of course they will cost less. I mean, to the special needs trust, you're paying an attorney to set that up for you. The owner is the beneficiary in the ABLE account, whereas in a special needs trust, you can list beneficiaries. The ABLE account does have a Medicaid clawback, and a special needs trust, depending on whether it's a first party, a third party, or what type of trust, it has possible Medicaid clawbacks. Something to think about in an ABLE account is right now, like I said, the limit on the deposits per year are $15,000, okay? Whereas in a special needs trust, pretty much it's unlimited, so it protects inheritance. So I'll give you an example of someone not too long ago that gave me a call and said, hey, it was great. We opened that ABLE account. An uncle of ours died and left him, we'll say his name is Joe, left him $18,000 of inheritance. And so we're going to put it in our ABLE account. Well, they won't allow you to put in more than $15,000. And now $18,000 could have be looked upon, might not be a disregard, for those Medicaid or SSI or SSDI benefits or any other that you're having. So, you want to keep an eye on those things. And I do another training for Caregiver Cafe, and I always put in there that, it's good to talk to relatives, to see if there is some inheritance that might come your way so that you're prepared for it, instead of all of a sudden you're just getting a check, okay? Because that's definitely gonna wane upon public benefits that you as a person with a disability or a family member with a disability may be receiving. So how do you contribute to an ABLE account? Okay, so contributions to an ABLE account, they can be made by the account owner, parents, caregivers, or anyone who wants to contribute to an ABLE account. Contributions to ABLE accounts have to be post-tax dollars. Okay, so let's say Joe has an ABLE account and he works at Superior Silk Screen and he gets a paycheck. You can make a direct deposit into an ABLE account for a paycheck because that's considered post-tax dollars. For trust funds, there has been a new rule, and I'm so sorry, I forget to change some of these things, but trust funds, including special needs trusts, they can be rolled into an ABLE account one time, okay? Just one time. 529 college savings. So maybe you had a 529 college savings, but now you want to have it in an ABLE account. You can roll those into an ABLE account. And that change was made in 2018. Some states that where you open an ABLE account, so let's say I had an ABLE account in Virginia, but North Dakota changed its mind and they were going to open ABLE accounts here. Most states allow you to roll from one state to another, also a one-time rollover, as long as that account is going to be for the same beneficiary. We talked about the contributions in a lifetime. Each state difference, but the average being about $350,000 in a lifetime. Okay, so however, if a beneficiary is working, this is something newer, wasn't when ABLE accounts first started, and they or their employer is not contributing to a retirement plan. In other words, if they're working and they don't have a 401k, they can contribute additional amounts equal to or lesser than the annual gross salary of an individual poverty level. So in 2021, that is $12,880. So that means you can go above that $15,000 if you, as the account holder, which is also the beneficiary, is working and the person you're working for does not have a 401k or a retirement plan for you. So what is a qualified disability expense? Those are expenses that are related to the beneficiary's blindness or disability and are for the benefit of the designated beneficiary in maintaining or improving her health, independence, or quality of life. Okay. So this definition was particular and being extremely broad. So they designed it to be broad. That is what the people who advocated for this act wanted it to be very broad, and you'll see that coming up. So what can you use it for? You could use it for education. You can use it for transportation. So, you know, if you're traveling somewhere, if you need to go somewhere, you can use it for airplane, you can use it for taxi, you can use it for bus. Let's say you have a car, you can actually make a car payment from an ABLE account. Housing, you can use it for rent, mortgage, property taxes, homeowner association dues, employment, training and support. Say you needed a job coach or you wanted to continue your education and classes. You can use it for assistive technology, personal support services, health, prevention, wellness. You can pay, you got to pay taxes. You can put tax preparation on there. If you're going through guardianship, an ABLE account can pay for their own guardianship, attorney's fees. Let's say you have an ABLE account. I had somebody the other day, first time, called me and said, we have an ABLE account, but now we know we need a special needs trust. Can I pay for a special needs trust out of an ABLE account? Well, I did have to call the IRS to make sure that that was legal, and you actually can do that. There's nothing to state that you cannot. You can use it for basic living expenses. Those have just been recently more defined by the IRS for ABLE accounts. Before they were kind of loose because Social Security Administration, if you're receiving especially SSI or SSDI, those monies are awarded to you for basic living expenses. And there was some law cases saying that you were not able to use it out of an ABLE account. You had to use your SSI money first for it. But that has been resolved, so you can still use it for basic living expenses. Funeral and burial expenses, as we've talked about, you can use it for that. Some examples of broadness. So Aaron wanted to take his brother out for lunch and buy him dinner. You can use an ABLE account for that. He wanted to buy Christmas gifts for all his friends. He can use his ABLE account for that. It's extremely broad. It's harder to find out what you cannot use it for than what you can use it for. But, you know, if you're always in question, you'll see at the end of this, there's some resources that you can call, or you can always give me a call and I will try to find out that answer for you. But just remember that this opens up a lot of doors for what you can use it for, compared to if you're receiving SSI and how you're using your money with SSDI, but you can also save it. So say you wanted to save up for something. One of the families I help in, when they had an ABLE account, they also invested the money in it and they saved up to put a down payment on a condo. You know, so there's ways to save for this, when as in SSI, you always had to spend down the money. So the IRS is the lead agency over ABLE accounts, so you can be audited, which is why you, if you are not receiving SSI or SSDI, you want to have a disability certificate. We talked about how broad these expenses are. So what happens if you misuse ABLE funds? So part of the thing, one of the regulations is you cannot have more than one ABLE account to each qualified individual. So as an account holder and a beneficiary, you can only have one account. If an individual has more than one ABLE account, for a period of 60 days, they're subject to a 10% penalty and income tax. And the funds may affect eligibility for those federally means tested. So Medicaid, SSI, SSDI. If you use them for a non-qualified disability expense and it's deemed by an IRS audit not to be a qualified disability expense, again, there's a penalty. The funds are subject to a 10% penalty and again may affect eligibility for federal means tested benefits. I was just recently on a webinar for ABLE accounts and the IRS has started. They started in the end of the year 2020 to start auditing ABLE accounts. So for years, they kind of sat on them and they did not audit too many, but they have started most recently. And just like anything else, they can audit you at any time. And they are doing random audits as well, we were told. So how do you spend money out of ABLE accounts? The nice thing about ABLE accounts, most if not all of the states where you can open an ABLE account, you can get a debit card. So we're doing like online banking. They're easy to use. You can also get checks. You do not need any pre-authorizations or pre-approval. And so they're much easier to spend, especially than when you compare them to a special needs trust where you would have to go to the trustees. You have to present to them what you're spending it on. These are much, much easier to use. There were some changes made in 2018. The first one is the contribution made by a designated beneficiary when they deposited in their own ABLE account. It's not counted as income or resources for the purpose of SSI and SSDI, but a third-party contribution made into the beneficiary's ABLE account is also not counted as a resource and income. Before 2018, if a third party put money into the account, it was considered a resource for SSI. Currently is not. So those were some changes that were made along the way. Examples of that were like the wage earnings, child support, alimony, those types of things they were counting against as a third party contribution. And as I said, currently are not. About that one. So this is a little bit newer as well. It's called the Savers Credit. And this is a tax break. So it was formerly it was called the Retirement Savings Contribution Credit, but the Savers Credit for an ABLE account is a special tax break to low and moderate income taxpayers who are saving for retirement. This credit, in addition to other tax benefits for saving in the retirement account. So if you qualify for a Savers Credit, it can reduce or eliminate your tax bill. So this is made available for ABLE accounts as well. So the 3 requirements you need, you have to be at least 18 years of age by the close of the taxable year. You cannot be claimed as a dependent on anybody else's taxes, and you cannot be a full-time student. So it goes by, the Savers Credit goes by your adjusted gross income that is reported on your 1094, I'm sorry, 1040. The amount of credit that you can get is either 50%, 20%, or 10% of the contributions you made for the ABLE account. The maximum amount that you can put as a Savers Credit is $2,000. Okay, so the best way I've told people how to look at this is if you currently have an IRA, you can put money, you can contribute money to your IRA, and then you can use that as a credit on your taxes. This is basically the same type of method that is used for an ABLE account. And then the tax form that you use for this is the 8880. Okay. And your maximum adjusted gross income cannot be more than $32,500 for single filers who have ABLE accounts. So a lot of ABLE accounts also give you the opportunity to invest the money that you put in an ABLE account. So some states you can put so much in a savings account or savings checking account, or you can put them part of it into an investment, or you can choose what you want to do. So the difference between these, of course, is an ABLE savings or checking account, of course, is going to be the safest, very easy access. Not a lot of risk involved in savings and checking accounts. You get the debit cards. They certainly don't have opportunity for growth or low rate, even though I'm not sure what has growth these days. But when you invest, if you take money from an ABLE account and do investments, they're typically in stocks and bonds. So you know there is some risk of loss involved there. But you may get a higher rate of return on your money or your investment there. I'm not an investment broker, so most definitely if you're thinking about investing in ABLE accounts, one good resource again would be the Bank of North Dakota. They've helped a couple of my families who were opened ABLE accounts and wanted to invest. So they had some advice for them. It's just something I would suggest if you're going to do investments with an ABLE account. Choosing the right option. So when you think about, do I need an ABLE account? Do I want an ABLE account? You know, a good way to think about this is through some person-centered planning. I mean, identify the goals of what you want to use that ABLE account for, or access resources that can help you do that. Like I said, I had a family, their daughter has an ABLE account. She is able to live out on her own. And they saved up money in an ABLE account to put a down payment on a condominium for where she was living. And that was the whole reason for them to open up an ABLE account. Understand the risk that you may be taking. You know, again, that risk, a lot of it could come with investments. So maybe you just want a checking or the savings account. Or maybe you want your money to grow, so you invest it. And a lot of states allow you to do both. Decide what short-term use you may have for it. In other words, some daily expenses that you might have. So let's say you did meet that eligibility for the diagnosis of a disability, but you do not receive SSI or SSDI, you're just doing this off of a disability certificate. You know, maybe you want it for those daily expenses that you might have. And again, it can be long-term expenses, as we say, purchasing a home, just making a list of really what you would want to use an ABLE account for, or if you're helping another person with some person-centered planning or doing that yourself, you know, I think it's a great idea to kind of plan out how you want to use that. And part of the reason we think of that too is, though you can use it for burial expenses, and maybe we'll change the rules for a Medicaid clawback. You never know when those things might change. Just having the savings account and stuff wasn't probably made to have large amounts of money in there, because if those rules didn't change, or there was money left in there and you only used, if there is $15,000 in there and you used 5,000, 6,000, I don't know, for a funeral, you know, that money's going to go back to Medicaid unless there's a way for you to roll it over. So I think that's why, you know, that's the biggest reason why there is limits on it per year of how much you can deposit. You most certainly can roll those over from year to year, but only a $15,000 per year deposit. And again, think about and talk to your family members about inheritance. I have lots of people call me and they say, we got an inheritance check. How can I put this into an ABLE account? because they don't have anywhere to put it yet, but they're, you know, on the verge or already have lost federally means for programs such as Medicaid, or they've lost their SSI. So it's really important to talk to your family members. Each ABLE account in each state, they have disclosure statements. So make sure that you're reading those. Those are where you're going to find their list of eligibility requirements. They have their investment options listed there. Their fees are going to be listed there. So make sure that you're reading those. I think on every one that I've looked at, you can find it on the web page that they have. It's usually towards the bottom in very fine print, but make sure you read those. Typical things that you might need to open an ABLE account, again, depends on which state you're opening an ABLE account in, but you're going to need social security numbers. You're going to need those for guardians, rep payees, power of attorney, if any of those are relevant to you. Some ask for driver's license. Some ask for certified copies of birth certificates. Some not as much recently, but some ask for a recent utility payment to prove your residency. None ask, again, for you to upload a disability certificate. They typically will ask you the question, what the disability category is, and when were you diagnosed. Just, again, make sure you have that proof in case the IRS is going to audit you. And then most of this is, a lot of them are done on online banking. So you're going to need banking account numbers. And each state asks for different information. These are just the more common things. Also, when you open an ABLE account, most of the states, you're able to manage your expenses and deposits and contributions online, just like online banking. But again, you're going to want to keep good record of your ABLE accounts for several different reasons. One, of course, is the IRS may audit you. Also, Social Security for SSI and SSDI, they can ask you for statements on your ABLE accounts. So you're going to want to have that, all that stuff already available. One of the biggest resources for ABLE accounts is the ABLE National Resource Center. They have an archive of webinars since basically ABLE accounts opened. So you can go on their website and you can find just any kind of webinar that you're looking at. They're always creating new ones. They've just been a great source for anybody who's, you know, has questions about ABLE accounts, doesn't understand anything, or wants to understand an education portion of this for public policy. Maybe you want to, want to make some policy changes. Like here in North Dakota, we'd like to get rid of that Medicaid clawback. Maybe we can go to the ABLE National Resource Center to see how other states did that. So great resource. I have that link there below. So finding which state to open, I will pull up a slide, hopefully it can pull it up, that shows you on the National ABLE Resource Center, you can compare 3 states of which state you would like to open an account in. There are some states that you must be a resident of that state to have an ABLE account there, and then there are other states that allow anybody to. More recently, there's a little note here. The National ABLE Alliance is a group of states that came together and they hold ABLE accounts. What we have found out with some people who have applied to or filled out an application to one of these states that is in the National ABLE Alliance, there's a hiccup in the language and the interpretation of what North Dakota guardianship law is. And this alliance is quite large, so it has 18 states included in it. And the website is listed below for that. But you might wanna think about choosing currently another state, as we have had families and persons that have had issues where they cannot have saving or checking account. They can only have an investment account due to the way our guardianship reads. If you are holding guardianship every 5 years, there's a review. But in our language, it says that it expires. So these states have interpreted as that guardianship is temporary and that it ends. For most of us, we do not interpret it that way, but it's definitely something that we're advocates are talking about, seeing what we can do about that. But there has been some hiccups when you open those. One of the ones we've seen is Minnesota, because in North Dakota, I find people that I help, even though we don't have ABLE accounts in North Dakota, they want to like stay close to North Dakota. So a lot of them that have opened up recently in Minnesota, we found some that have had some issues. Before they were in the Alliance, we did not see this. So if you're thinking about opening an ABLE account and need some one-on-one support to open an ABLE account, you can certainly give us a call. I'll try to pull up the sharing. See if I can get it this time. It didn't come on, did it? Oh, new share. Here we go. Everybody nod, or Roxanne or somebody I see on there, can you see the comparison?
Yep, it's on.
Okay, so this is on that website that I gave you, the National ABLE Resource Center. If you go to their main site, it'll show you, it'll say on there a comparison tool. So as you look at these, I'll put up number one here. Here we go. So it says a select a state to compare. So you can go on these, and let's pick Colorado. Let's pick Idaho. And let's pick Nebraska. Okay, so we're picking 3 states. And then you can go down the list and it says, does this program offer enrollment to out-of-state residents? Okay, so, oops. Where I lost them all. We'll try this again. Okay. So as we see in Colorado and Nebraska, if you want to open one in there, you don't have to be a resident of that state. And you see the blanks in Idaho. I'm going to show you, they go all the way down. That's what would happen if you click on North Dakota. Okay. You don't have ABLE accounts in those states. Okay. This one is, you know, is there a state income tax? For those, if you're looking at those, of course, for North Dakota, they would not apply for you because you don't live in the state of Nebraska, or and Colorado just doesn't have them. Are they FDIC insured? I've checked out all of them and I have not found one that is not FDIC insured. It'll talk to you about what a minimum contribution requirement is to open one and how much it is. Colorado's 25, Nebraska's 50. Again, in Colorado, you want to make sure that guardianship, it is part of the Alliance. Is there an annual set fee? We'll go in there and show you what maintenance fees are. They're all pretty similar for maintenance fees. You have to, is there a required minimum contribution? How much? Again, those are usually pretty similar as well, between 25 and 50, and some are none. Are there fees that restrict the number of disbursements you make? If so, why? Here again, it talks, can you roll over my ABLE account into another ABLE account? If so, what is the fee to do that? Again, most of them allow you to do that one time. Is there a debit card purchasing program? They tell you in there. Some of them have monthly fees. Some of them, those fees go away if you have a balance of something, and some have none at all. Who is the investment manager? So if you wanted to invest funds, this portion here will tell you who that company or agency may be. A lot of them are Vanguard as well. You see Schwab in a lot of them. How many investment programs are there within that ABLE account? There's usually anywhere from 3 to 6. Those are just some basic questions that they ask. You could look up, and a lot of those, like I said, are to give you some basic answers, but it's kind of like, which state do I open up in? I used to do a lot in Virginia. Virginia was one of the states that was first established ABLE accounts in their state. And they worked really well. Nobody was really having a lot of issues. And then maybe after a year or so, we saw more and more issues. I wouldn't say it's that they don't have, you can't open an ABLE account in there. I will say though, we've had some families come back to us and say, they can't get a hold of customer service. Nobody calls me back. I've sent materials. They seem to not have them. But again, it's a choice of yours, but I just feel as somebody who talks about ABLE accounts, I kind of want to let people know about that, as well as we let people know about that alliance and the guardianship issue. Right now, I've been working with Nebraska a lot. They're really simple to open. They typically get open within 7 to 10 days. Once they receive the application. Their customer service has been awesome for my families. I've heard nothing but good feedback from them. And that's kind of why I showed Nebraska. You can kind of see on there if there's something that you don't particularly like about the program, you can go back and compare other states. And here you will see on the National Resource Center, if you go over to resources, there they talk about the questions and the webinars and the podcasts and all the tools they have, and policies are listed in there as well. You have people tell me and they say, oh, this sounds so cumbersome. I've had a few people after the training, but really once you start going on it, excuse me, they're pretty simple. Most people do online banking now, and that's really what they are. You can transfer money quite easily. The tools that come with the ABLE accounts on the state websites, like I said, you can manage your own expenses in there. You can upload your receipts in there so you don't have to keep paper receipts. They're quite easy to use. But again, you most certainly can give me a call if you have questions about an ABLE account, or you want to go step by step when you open an ABLE account. I most certainly would be more than happy to help anybody. And I think that's about it for my PowerPoints.
Vicki, do you, I don't know if you showed it on there, do you have your contact information on there?
Oh yeah, here, I'll go to the end. Here we go. See it?
Yep. And actually now you can also, we finally got a FBND account for all of the staff. So it could be Vicki@fbnd.org, Family Voices North Dakota, abbreviated.org.
Yeah, I haven't changed a couple things in here.
It's all right. Does anybody have any questions? It was a lot of great information. Feel free to unmute yourself and ask away.
Vicki, so
I have a question because
Sorry.
Because I'm viewing this, or because I'm only getting this over the telephone, I'm not able to see anything visually. Can you just give your telephone number, Vicki Peterson?
Sure. You can reach me at 701 258.
What was that?
I'm sorry. 701 258 2237. And if I don't answer, leave a message.
Okay.
I don't know, and we'll also send out these slides and the recording also. That will be the next email that you guys will get from us. So we'll send it out to everybody that registered also. And then we're also, we'll have this on our website as well, the recording and the PowerPoint. So our website is also www.fvndfrankvictornorthdakota.org. Dana, go ahead.
My question is, so Nebraska is not part of that 12 state or 18 state alliance then?
No, they're not. And I've talked to them extensively about our guardianship laws and the way they read. They do not see a problem with that.
Okay.
So, I mean, it just kind of makes it easier that, you know, if you know ahead of time that there could be issues with that alliance. I mean, I really promote ABLE accounts because I just think they're so good for everybody. You know, you don't have to put a lot of money in them. They're really easy to use. The broadness of what you can use them for is just so much more than you can use with Social Security, SSI or SSDI monies. So I just feel like a lot of people could have these. Yes, you may need a special needs trust as well, especially if you know there could be some large inheritance, or you have land or mineral rights or assets that cannot roll into just a simple, you know, checking or ABLE account. I mean, checking or a savings account with ABLE accounts. Some other questions people ask me is if they pay taxes, you know, is there a line on the IRS for ABLE accounts? There is. You know, just very similar to what you do with college save accounts as well. So they're listed down there as 529.
Any other questions at all for Vicki?
Yeah. And again, think broadly about what you can use it for. And if you're not sure, I mean, like I said, you can always give me a call too, or you can go on the National ABLE Resource Center, that website. There are some webinars that talk about expenses, but, you know, I've had people call me, well, can, you know, my son use them for his school lunches at school? Yep, they sure can. My older son, he's getting married in February. So the clothes we have to buy for my son with a disability, you know, for the wedding. Yep, you can use an ABLE account to buy those too. Because we want to remember with SSI and stuff, you know, they're counting those assets. So, you know, if you use that money to buy something. I had someone call me recently, they bought a gaming system and they didn't use an ABLE account. Well, they got, you know, dinged on it for SSI because it's more than $2,000 worth of an asset. So, you know, if the monies would have been used from an ABLE account, you would have been able to purchase that and still kept SSI money. And like I said, at a federal level, I mean, the advocates just believe just because I have a disability doesn't mean that I shouldn't be able to save money for things, you know, just like anyone else.
Bryce, Chelsea, Dana, Maria, Sarah, Dondi, any questions? No? Well, thank you all for joining us this evening. And like Vicki said, let us know if you have any questions. So not let us know, let her know if you have any questions, because this is new for me also. Vicki, Bryce said great information.
Oh, thanks, Bryce. Well, yeah, I mean, really call me. You can call me at either one of those numbers. If I don't answer though, please leave me a message and I promise I will get back to you. So, and sometimes it is, I mean, you might go on and you find one and it's like, oh, I don't know quite how to answer that on the application. You can just call me for that too. I mean, it doesn't have to be for anything else. Any questions at all would be just fine.
Maria also said great info.
Oh, thanks. I like her little pug. I think it's a pug, isn't it? I don't know, but he's cute.
Yeah. All right, everyone, have a good evening, rest of the evening, and watch for some more of our extended learning calls. Like I said, we'll put this up on the website too. And then we'll also send out the slides and the recording in our next email to you that registered. So there will be, is it the 19th, Vicki, on October 19th? Is that the IDEA training?
Yes, I
if you
believe
haven't
so.
registered for that, you can find it in our, and if you aren't receiving our weekly newsletter, most of those trainings are listed there, or I'll also send it out on its own. So that would also be a good one to attend. So thanks everybody and have a nice evening. Thanks, Vicki.
Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you.